Hello, welcome to the Flipping and Wholesaling Houses in New York show. I am Michael Pinter, where I teach you how to start flipping or wholesaling houses in New York, or if you're already doing it, how to grow your business. And I had a question and I want to answer it. I think I've answered it in a different way, but the question is, why are there so few wholesalers in New York? Now, I'm going to tell you why. There's probably about 8 reasons. I don't know if I'm going to get to them all. The number one reason why there's so few wholesalers in New York is because besides me, I don't think anybody's really teaching how to do it in New York. So most people want to learn how to wholesale. Unfortunately, they spend a lot of money on a training program or on a course, or they just watch somebody who does not do it in New York and they learn what they think is how to do it in New York, and then they try it and it doesn't work. But now we're going to talk about why it doesn't work. All right, so there's a bunch of reasons. Number one reason is that you do not bring a contract to a seller appointment. The seller's attorney generates that contract. So there is a huge gap between the time that a seller agrees to you and when you actually get it under contract, right? There is no gap in all 49 other states. Seller agrees, you sign a contract, you're in contract. So, and sometimes deals fall apart then. It's the truth. It happens, right? Either the attorney kills the deal or the guy changes his mind. It's true. You're not protected. Nice to think that you could be, but I don't see how. That's number one. Number two, so attorneys is number one. Number two is you need a big earnest money deposit in New York, right? The standard in New York is 10%. So standard in most states is like de minimis, like $100 to $50. Here, you're buying a house for $300,000. You have to put, the seller's attorney is going to ask you for $30,000. Now, I teach how to get that down, but it's still going to be something significant. You're not getting away for $100. The third reason is that the prices here are really high. So you got to understand, it scares away a lot of people. They want to buy a house. You're not buying a house for $100,000 in Long Island, almost anywhere. So you need to be working with bigger numbers, and that scares people too. Before, the taxes are really high, so the numbers don't work for a lot of things, right? If you're going to end up closing on the property, right? If you're wholesaling, you're saying you're never going to close on it, but the truth is, there is always a risk that you're going to have to close on it if a buyer screws you over. And the taxes are expensive. The holding costs are expensive. I think we're up to 5, but I'm not sure. Is that the closing costs here are ridiculous. They are absurd. When you tell people, do I go here? I don't know where the hell I go. Probably go here. How much our closing costs are, it's nuts. I figure $10,000 on a purchase. Sometimes it's more, and it's usually $15,000 on sale, right? Because you have to pay a buyer's agent. I figure you do. Sometimes you get away without it. Closing costs are crazy because of the other things that I said, because of taxes and because the numbers are so high. Interest costs are also higher, right? Because you're borrowing $300,000-$400,000. You're not borrowing $70,000, and you're paying $1,000 a month in taxes. You're not paying $20 a month in taxes like you are in North Carolina. So crap. So all those things make it expensive if you're going to close, and even the legal fees just to get the deal done, right? As a wholesaler, right, you're going to spend $2,000-$3,000 just for that, right? So wholesaling in other states, you don't pay anything, right? You pay a lien search fee of $200, something stupid. Here, you're going to spend legal fees. So it's important to understand that it is very dramatically, absolutely lights out different in New York than every other place. And people who are getting their information from everybody else besides me, I think, and it sounds crazy when I say it, are learning how to do it in the other 49 states, not in New York. New York is different. So you need to understand that if you're going to do this, you need to get your information basically from me, because I think I'm the only person that's doing it in downstate New York and teaching it. But in general, those are the general reasons why, right? A, people getting bad information, and B, all the additional costs that make it harder here. But the attorney is a big deal, right? I can tell you, I know a lot of people, when they started this, they brought a contract with them, and the seller said yes, they whipped out a contract, and the seller looked at them like they had 5 heads, and they said, hey, doesn't my attorney have to be here for this? And that's the truth, right? It's an attorney state in the real sense of the word. I know there are other attorney states, it's still not the same. I think North Carolina is an attorney state. All that means is that there's an attorney affiliated with a title company that's involved in closing. Oh, another thing is, title company doesn't really close the deal like it does in the other 49 states, right? People asking for an investor-friendly title company. No such thing in New York. Title company in New York does 2 things at the closing. They make sure all the liens are paid off, and they make sure all the taxes are paid off. That's it. Which is one of the reasons why, it's almost impossible to do subject to deals in New York because the title company is not going to allow that lien to stay on. Also, because there's an attorney, he's not going to advise his client to close on a deal, leave a lien in his name that somebody else is responsible to pay for. I think if he did that and the guy didn't make payments, he'd probably be subject to malpractice. So, subject to, almost impossible. So, as I was saying, the title company does not disperse the funds, does not really run the closing. An attorney does that. You need an investor-friendly attorney to represent you. You do need a title company, but that title company is really just a service provider in New York. They are not dispersing the funds and making the closing happen and doing all these things that you hear about on the internet for a title companies, investor-friendly title companies, all that stuff. It's not the same. So it's important to understand that people don't get into it in New York because they don't understand it, or because they get into it learning the wrong things and figure out that it's much harder than they thought. It is hard. I'll admit it's hard. Building up a pipeline of leads and deals takes a long time. I tell people that, they're going to have to spend $1,000 to $1,500 when they start to buy a list, skip trace the list, and then they have to call it 2 hours a day and 4 hours a day on weekends, and they should not plan on getting paid till 12 to 18 months. Right? You tell somebody in North Carolina, they'll tell you within 4 months you'll have a deal. Maybe. All right, so do it in North Carolina if you want. Right, so I didn't really get into all the reasons why New York, why I choose to do business in New York and why it's better, but I'll give you a basic rundown, right? So I make a lot of money on deals. I average about $40,000 a wholesale deal. That's probably more than 4 to 5 times what people in some states do, like Vegas, Dallas, Phoenix. Those guys make $8,000 on a wholesale deal. We make a lot more. Lack of competition, as we just discussed, right? There's a lot less competition in New York, which is amazing, and people are shocked when I tell it to them. There's a bunch of other reasons. Seller cannot get out of contract in New York. Cannot, right? I know they try to do this thing in other states where they record the contract, or record an affidavit of contract, or record a memorandum of contract, all that crap. That does not prevent the seller from leaving. It just hopefully gets you a little bit of money if they sell to somebody else. But if they never sell, you're never getting paid. In New York, after a seller goes into contract with you and they change their mind, let's say, or ask for more money, you could put them on to close. If they don't close, you can put a list pendants on the property, which is the same as if you were a mortgage foreclosure. So they never sell and get to anybody else, and you can sue them for specific performance, which is the entire purchase price. And everybody's represented by an attorney, so they know that. So sellers are not getting out of contract here ever. They're not changing their price on you. Those things don't happen. It does happen in every other state, where it's really easy to get into contract and it's really easy to get out of contract. In New York, it's a pain in the ass to get into the contract, and it's impossible for a seller to get out of the contract, basically, unless there's a title issue or something along those lines. So those are the good reasons for New York. And there are other good reasons for New York also. Like I said, it's not subject to, so you're always buying a property free and clear, right? You can buy a property at auction. You don't have to order title on it like you do in almost every other state, because there are other liens that could come with the property. In New York, all the liens get paid by the seller, so you can buy at an auction and not have to think about it. And I'm not even thinking of all the good reasons in New York. I love doing business in New York. There's very few people. I would say 60 to 70% of the time, I'm the only person making an offer to a seller. If you tell that to somebody in the places I told you, like Phoenix, Dallas, anywhere in the Carolinas, you're making 100 offers. The seller's getting 100 offers. You're in a line of people waiting to see the property. Right? That very rarely happens to me. It happens once in a while. Usually, I'm the only person making an offer. So I'll take the good with the bad. I know it's struggle. I know it takes time. I know there's unique challenges to New York, but I'll take that because of all the good parts of New York. But that's the reason why there's so few wholesalers, and you're lucky you found the one person who teaches how to do it in New York and who actually does it. There are plenty of people who do it not plenty. There's some people who do it in New York, and there's some people who teach it in New York, but they don't actually do it in New York. So they operate in New Jersey and they tell you how to do it in New York, which is absurd because they don't really understand New York. So, and additional expenses. So if you're saying, wow, I can't afford these things, I can't afford a deposit, and I can't afford all the things I gotta spend, the real answer is just to team up with somebody like me who can put up the money and get you, get a deal going without you have to putting up any cash. I hope this was helpful. If you're interested in all the ways I can help you, go to howtoflipnewyork.com. If you're interested in learning out more about coaching, I have this cold, so I don't sound great. Coaching, go to coaching.howtoflipnewyork.com. And what else? Oh, you watch it on YouTube, please subscribe. You watch it on any channel, please click the thumbs up. The likes really help me. And what else? Oh, please comment. I post 5 times a week. I didn't post yesterday, but I'll try and make that up this week. So any comment is fine. It doesn't have to be about the video you're watching. If it's a simple answer, I'll just reply. If it's something I've covered before, I'll send you links to the videos. And if it's something new, I'll do a new video on it. So thank you very, very much for watching. I really appreciate it.